Be'ezrat Hashem Naaseh V'Nastriach. I want to welcome you to another session of our Parashat Shavua learning here at Sharone Lankry. I'd like to dedicate this class to the Hatzlacha of Ariel Ben Dorit, Hatzlacha of Henshi Gordetsky and family. Also, that it should be to the general success of Abraham and Yaakov Sakal, Guy Ben Dina, Inbal Bat Jacqueline, Batchen Bat Jacqueline, and also Judah Mendel. Also, this should be to the Refuah Shelema of Amram Ben Zohara and Miriam Bat Penina Pesi. And this should also be to the Ilu Nishmat of David Ben Zohara, Yaniv Ben Rina, and Shalom Dover Ben Binyamin Eliha. Okay, let's get started. Parashat Korach. What was he thinking? What was Korach thinking? Now, this is something that we really have to imagine. Imagine this. You put yourself in the shoes of Moshe. Imagine that one of the most important people in the Jewish nation comes with 250 people of Rashi Sanhedrut, meaning these are very, very smart people. The Psukim are going to reveal to us who they are, coming towards Moshe and Aharon. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that posse of people just walking, getting closer and closer and closer, coming to challenge Moshe and Aharon? In Perek Tet Zayin, it starts, Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehat ben Levi, Vedatan ve'Aviram bnei Eliyav ve'on ben Pelet bnei Reuven. We have over here Korach, who takes Datan and Aviram and On ben Pelet. ויקומו לפני משה ואנשים מבני ישראל 50 ו200 plus another 250 people. What kind of people? נשיאי עדה, princes, קראי מועד, people that know how to intercalate the calendar. This is, you have to understand astrology. Very, very smart people. אנשי Shem, they said that they were world famous. These were Jews that they were known across the world, not just locally in the desert. ויקהלו על משה ועל אהרון ואומרו עליהם. So these 258 people, they gather around Moshe and Aharon. Imagine that scene, and they tell him, רב לכם, it's too much for you. ככל העדה כולם קדושים. Why are you taking all these roles as the leader of the nation, as the Kohen Gadol? כל העדה כולם קדושים. We are all holy. ובתוכם השם, and I'll prove it to you, because God is amongst us. Because if God wasn't amongst us, we wouldn't have Olam Moed, we wouldn't have the Mishkan, we wouldn't be able to do all these korbanot. If God is amongst us, that means that we're all holy, just as you are holy. What are you elevating yourself above everybody else? We're just as good as you. That's their claim. Rashi tells us, what was the reason for this? What was the reason of Korach, Datan ve'Aviram, and On ben Pelet, and the 250 Rashi Sanhedrut to come to Moshe Rabbeinu and to Aharon to make this claim? Rashi tells us very simple. It's simply Le'orer ala kehuna. Korach wanted to be the Kohen Gadol. Aharon, you are in my position. I am coming to you right now. Quit, resign, and I'm taking over. That was his claim. We're all holy. As a matter of fact, if not me, all these other men are also just as equivalent as I am to take the position of Kohen Gadol. Furthermore, beautiful little claim over here. The Ramban opens it up even a little bit more. The Ramban says, there's a chidush over here. Why would these specific people be? What does Datan and Aviram get out of it? What does On ben Pelet get out of it? What did these 250 Rashi Sanhedrut get out of it? What is their claim? Why did they attach themselves to Korach's machloket? The Ramban says, that Korach haya memurmar, he was bitter for a very, very long time. Not only that, Datan ve'Aviram, it's no secret that Datan ve'Aviram have a beef with Moshe. It was already, first of all, in Egypt, in the time of Mitzrayim. Not only that, when they were in the desert, they made problems. Even the whole thing with when the man came down and they took the man and made it further away from the people's houses. Who are the ones that did that? Datan ve'Aviram, they were Shaim, as they were called. And what is On ben Pelet? On ben Pelet is actually also known as Nemuel ben Eliyav, and he was the brother of Datan ve'Aviram. It's in the family. Furthermore, what about those 250 men? Why are they involved? Very simply, every single one of those 250 men was a firstborn. Why is that an issue? Why is that an issue that they're Bechorim? Why? Because it hurt them. Shenilkecha mehem avodat hamikdash. Originally, who was supposed to work in Bet HaMikdash? The firstborns. It was taken away from them. And they wanted to be the job of the Kohanim. They wanted to be the Nevi'im. But after the sin of the golden calf, Moshe Rabbeinu took that role away from them and gave it to who? To his brother, to Aaron, who started off a new sect of a Kohen, and only his family can now work in Bet HaMikdash. So what they said, and they came to have a claim. What's Vaikach Korach ben Yitzhak? He says this is something that's not from God. What we're experiencing right here is from Moshe Rabbeinu. This is Moshe's rules. This is Moshe's revisions of what Hashem really wants from us. There's a proof over here that we're just as holy as Moshe, just as holy as Aharon, because look, God is living amongst us. Why can't I be a Kohen Gadol? Why can't you be a Kohen Gadol? You know what? You should be a Kohen Gadol. You're a Bechor. You're a Bechor. Hashem said that the Bechorim are going to be the people that are going to work in the Mikdash. Why is it taken away from us? Now why is it only his older brother and his children? Something is fishy over here. Okay. Midrash Rabbah, this will open it up even more so, because even though we just read 3 Pesukim, and from those 3 Pesukim, again, if it wasn't for Midrashim, how would we even know all these behind the stories, behind the scene conversations? In Yalkut Lekach Tov, it brings an interesting Midrash Rabbah on the first pasuk of the parasha. It says Vaikach Korach. What does it say? He says what was the last thing that Moshe Rabbeinu told us? Well, if you just flip the page to last week's parasha, Parashat Shlach Lecha, the last thing that was discussed is what? Tzitzit. So what does Korach do? On the last thing that Moshe Rabbeinu uttered, the last thing that he taught, he says, I'm going to attack that exactly. And he comes and he asks him, Kafatz Korach. Korach jumped up at Moshe and he tells Moshe, this is famous, we mentioned this in previous classes, but we're going to have a chidush over here, something new. He says, Talit shekula techelet, mahu shetiyotah min hatzitzit. We know that there's supposed to be one string on the tzitzit that's supposed to be blue. Korach comes to him with a trick question. What if the entire tzitzit is techelet? The whole tzitzit is blue. Does it still need a blue string? You want to know something? Hi, Lisheva. Good to see you. Yosef Botan, I didn't have a chance to say hello. So, it's a good question, right? It reminds me of the question of Esav. How do you, איך מעשרים את המלח? You know, these are the trick questions. How do you tie the salt? So, when he asks Moshe this question, Moshe answers him, Chayevet. Yes, a tzitzit that's all blue requires a blue string. Amar lo Korach, talit shekula techelet ena poteret at atzma? You mean an entire talit that is blue, it's not enough for it? It still needs that string? Arba chutlim potot ota? He says, what? The whole thing is blue. You're going to tell me only 4 strings on each tzitzit? That's what's going to make it patur? That's what's going to make it kosher? He continues. He asks another question. Male bait, male sfarim. Ma'u shi'eh patur min hamezuzah? He says if I have a house filled with Torah scrolls, filled with holy books, do I still need to put a mezuzah? What's a mezuzah? Mezuzah is a few chapters. It's a chapter on the door. So he says, if I have a chapter on the door, right? But what if I have an entire room filled with Torah scrolls? Surely a room filled with Torah books doesn't need a chapter in the front door, right? Amar lo, chayav b'mezuzah. Moshe tells him, no, it's still required a mezuzah. Amar lo, kol haTorah kula ra'a parashiyot. All the Torah, the entire Torah is 275 parashiyot. And not poteret et habayit, 275 chapters, the parashiyot, chapters, it's not going to be enough for the house? Parasha achat shebamezuzah poteret et habayit, you mean to tell me one that is standing in the mezuzah, that's what makes the bayit kosher? Amar lo, dvarim elu lo ntztavu alehen, umilbecha tabodan. He says, everything that you're telling us is not something that was commanded, you're making it on yourself, you're lying. Just like everything else that he's saying over here. What is he saying? Right? What are all these things that you're coming up with? This is from you, Moshe. This is Moshe's revisions, not what Hashem wants. Furthermore, when he asks him now imagine this is around over 250 people. And he's asking him, do we need one petit techelet when the whole tamid is techelet? Do we need one parasha when the whole room has Torah books? And in other words, we don't need one Moshe. Everybody's like Moshe. We don't need one Aharon. Everybody's like Aharon. Meaning he gave him examples to say, why is this little string special? Why is this little chapter special? All the books are special. All the tzitziyot special. All the people here are special. He was giving him very, very he was digging into him with examples of what he did, and he called him a straight out liar. Badan. Not only that, he says, we all heard God speak on Har Sinai. Just like you are here, we are here. We are all holy. So, a very good claim. Now, he continues his claim. I'll throw in this pasuk so we know what happens next, right? Vayishma Moshe vayipol al panav. Moshe is hearing this. He falls on his face. Oh no! Again, non-stop. Just when you finish one problem, comes the next. It's like like a parent with children. Just when you think you taught them a lesson, they come and they have to learn another lesson. Just when you did this, you did that. It's like never ending, never ending. It's like the day and age that we live in. Just when you think Corona was over, then comes the financial collapse. Just when the financial collapse is over, monkeypox. Oh, there's always something, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu, he falls on his face. What's going on over here? And he says, "Vaydaber el Korach ve'kol adato le'emor boker vayodeh Hashem et asher lo ve'et hakadosh ve'ikriv elav ve'et asher yivchar bo yikriv elav." He says, "Okay, guys, I hear you. Okay, everybody, calm down. Let's sleep on it. Boker. Come back tomorrow morning and let Hashem tell us exactly who's holy, who he wants close to him, and he's going to choose who he wants. We go directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, Hashem tells them, and Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, let's take it until the morning. That night, Korach is campaigning. He doesn't stop, right? It says over there, B'meshach kol halayla, Korach was talking against Moshe Rabbeinu and Aharon. And he started to confuse people. He was very, very good with his speech. He was very good at convincing people. And he tells them, let me give you an example what it's like living in Moshe's world with his rules. I'm just going to, thank you very much. Moshe Rabbeinu, he keeps doing these revisions to the Torah. He keeps tweaking it. He keeps is changing things in his favor and in the favor of his family. You want me to give you an example what it's like to live a day in the life of the Moshe Rabbeinu in his Torah? So he gives an example. There was one time a widowed woman, and she had 2 daughters, and she was extremely poor, that she didn't even have bread to eat. Oh, right away you start to play on the heartstrings, right? You have a poor woman who's widowed with 2 daughters, and they don't have a pot, they don't have bread to eat. What did she do? Kantasadeh, she bought a piece of field in order to plant over there trees, in order for her to grow fruit trees and vegetables. So she can have a little bit of fruits and vegetables for herself to eat, and if there's a little bit of a surplus, she'll sell it in the market so she can have a little bit of money. Okay? As soon as Moshe Rabbeinu saw that she bought this field, you know what he told her? Oh, you're going to plow? Be careful. You're not allowed to plow with a donkey and with a bull. So right away he stopped her from planting. She wanted to put the seeds in the ground. Moshe Rabbeinu shows up again. You have to be careful. Lo tizakar mecha kilayim. You can't put 2 species together. So he stops her again. When finally she did everything that he, all the instructions that he gave her, when it came time to harvest, he tells her, don't forget, you have to get leket shicha pe'al aniyim, that there's parts of your field that you have to give to the poor, and if anything drops on the floor, you can't pick it up. That's all for the poor people. That's for charity. Fine, Moshe, I'll do whatever you tell me. Okay? Finally, when the time came for her to collect all her fruits and vegetable, she comes to eat it. Just as it's about to hit her mouth, Moshe Rabbeinu shows up again and says, Rega, wait. Before you eat, you have to give my brother the Kohen terumah, and to me you have to give maaser, and only after that you can eat from new crops. You can't eat from new crops until you tithe to the Aharon, and until you give me terumah. When this old lady, poor old lady, the widowed woman with the two daughters, saw that it's so complicated to have a field, because every time she wants to do something, Moshe Rabbeinu is right there to stop her. What does he do? And she doesn't have any rest. She decided to sell the field. And she said, instead of the field, you know what I'll get 2 sheep. And with the 2 sheep, I'll use the what's it called? The wool from the sheep in order to make clothing like sweaters for my children, so they can be warm in the winters. So finally, when it came to the time to shear the animal, Aharon comes up and he tells her, hey, are you about to shear the goats? Don't forget that you have to give the first Reshit Hagez to the Kohanim. That's mine. And after a while, the 2 kevasim, the 2 goats, finally had a baby kid, right? And it was the first Peterechem, a Bechor. And all of a sudden, the Kohen shows up again to her, and he tells her, don't forget, firstborn goes to the Kohen, and the Kohen takes the firstborn from the 2 sheep. This poor widow already felt like she can't do anything without escaping Moshe and Aharon. So she said, you know what? I'm done with this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to shecht the animal. I'm just going to shecht it, and so I can eat it. As soon as she shechted the animal, Aharon comes back again. Oh, you just shechted the animal. Well, don't forget, there's gifts that you must give to the Kohen, the 24 gifts of Kehunah. Which part of them is Zroa Lechayim V'Keva? You have to give the cheeks, you have to give the intestine, and you have to give the Zroa. I think the Zroa is the forearm, but for I guess the right leg or whatnot. That's Matnot Kehunah. The woman couldn't bear it anymore, and she says, "That's it. I'm getting rid of all my stuff." That every time the Kohen hears of something that is mine, he comes over and takes it. You know what? I take everything and I make it chayim. You know what? I give up all my belongings. Comes Aharon HaKohen and says, Kol cherem asher charam leKohen yeh. I'll take it, it's all mine. Now, when you hear this, you're like, oh my God, this is Biden's America? It makes it sound like, what's going on over here? He painted such a rough story. That, and later on he says, and you know what was the end of that old widow? She died of starvation. And everybody's standing around and saying, oh my God, you're right, Korach. Look what we've gotten ourselves into. Surely this is not from God. Surely God will not do this to a poor old woman and her children. This is Moshe's doing. Moshe has conspired and came up with this plan. By the way, if you dissect this story, you see that there's many holes and almost everything that he said there was a sheker. I don't want to go that direction because we'll spend about 15 or 20 minutes. I want to go in a different direction, but just to let you know that that story has a lot of holes in it. So Korach is campaigning. He wants the kehuna. He wants to be Kohen Gadol, and he's got 250 of Rashi Sanhedrin, the most important people in the desert right now, that he has their ear. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he hears the claim that Korach wants to get the kehuna, what was his answer? What was his answer? Boker ve'odah Hashem. He tells them, let's revisit this idea in the morning. Moshe Rabbeinu was no slouch. He's a very, very smart individual himself, Baruch Hashem. And he also had a very, very good answer for Korach. Why would he tell him? Out of all the answers, he tells him tomorrow morning, right? Obviously, it seems that they were meeting at night. And he's telling Boker Vayida Hashem. Why was this specific thing that Moshe Rabbeinu shows the word Boker, morning? So Midrash Rabbah also touches on this and opens it up for us. Amar lהם Moshe, Gevulot Chalak HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'olamo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made borders. There's day and there's night. There is good and there is bad. There is Aharon and then there's everybody else. Aharon was specifically chosen by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Just like Hashem separates the morning from the night, just like Kadosh Baruch Hu separates the good from the bad, He separated Aharon from the entire group. Hashem chose him. And He says, V'chen ivdil Aharon shene'emar, there's a pasuk in Divrei Hayamim, V'yavdel Aharon la'akdisho kodesh kodashim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, la'avdil means to separate. In order to be kodesh kodashim, so He's letting them know, if you're able to decipher the difference between day and night, between light and darkness, how can you not see that this is the exact same thing? That this was, just like you can decipher between day and night and black and white, certainly you can decipher that this was chosen by God, and this is, and what you're claiming is not what Hashem wants. So here we ask the famous question. We ask this question many times in many different parts of our classes. We're going to ask it in this week's parasha. What was Korach thinking? I want to step into his shoes and I want to understand Korach. Well, to begin, you have to understand that a person's name is his essence. The letters of a person's name tell a lot about who he is. Korach, if you take the letters and you boggle them, are the same letters of Hakar. What's Hakar? To investigate. He was very, very smart. He was very shrewd. He would look deeply into things. And he looked very deeply into this matter before he decided to go out in public and say, hey, I am worthy. I know what I'm talking about. I can back up my claim. Hakar. He's researched, he investigated before he went out. What was he thinking? He thought a lot about it, as a matter of fact. Furthermore, Korach is also the same letters of the word Kerach. Kerach is ice. Meaning what? He was an ice cold thinker, very sharp. Not an emotional, not like somebody who's a warm thinker where, he uses his heart to sway it. Black, white, good, bad, this is right, this is wrong. I can see it like that, meaning he was a critical thinker. Very, very kerach, ice cold. As a matter of fact, it says, maybe I'll take it from here instead. It says about Korach, this is from Midrash Tanchuma. Rashi Midrash Tanchuma brings this. Korach shepikeach haya. You know what's the word pikeach? Extremely smart. Ma ra'a l'shtut zeh. What did he see for this nonsense? It makes no sense. Again, on a pshat level, does it even make sense to any person to go against Moshe Rabbeinu? Makes no sense. To go against Sharone Lankry, Ohev Shalom, Rodef Shalom, makes no sense. Korach, who was extremely smart, how can he do something so stupid? The shtut is something like nonsense. What's the answer that Rashi gave? His eyes fooled him. What does that mean? It says, Ra'a sholshelet gedola yotzet mimeno. He was a Navi. He was a prophet. He was one of the wealthiest people in the world. He carried the Aron. He was one of the most important people in Am Yisrael. He was world famous. Korach. This is not a simple individual. This is a person who's holy. You know what it is to carry the Aron? The Aron zaps you if you're in 1 second. Your kedusha is not there. You get zapped and you're gone. Korach was one of the carriers of the Aron. So, what did he see? He saw 600 years into the future. Imagine if you could see a day into the future. Wow. Huh? How about a month? How about a year? Imagine, Korach saw 600 years into the future. He saw that a big dynasty is coming out of him. As the Pasuk says in Tehillim, Moshe ve'Aaron bechohanav, u'Shmuel bekorei shemo. Who's his offspring? Shmuel. Shmuel is a prophet. The son of Hannah, who's the equivalent of Moshe ve'Aaron. So what does he say? That came from me? That's my dynasty? That's my great-great-great-great-grandson? Surely I am worthy. If I have a great-grandson who is on the same level as Moshe and Aaron, surely I am worthy to be a Kohen Gadol. Amar, אפשר כל הגדולה הזו עתיד לעמוד ממני, ואני אדום? All this,
And the irony is she gave him to a Kohen Gadol.
Right. So not only did she give him a Torah, not only that Shmuel came from him,
Right.
but also all the 24 sects of the Leviim that came from him. He says, and you want me to be quiet? I have a claim. Pikach, he's smart. He says, I'm worthy right now. Why wait? Again, kerach. Ice cold. That's it. On paper, it's 100% I'm right. However, Chazal tell us his prophecy was right. He was worthy. He was worthy to be a Kohen Gadol. But not at that moment. When? During the time of Mashiach, in the time of the third Bet HaMikdash, who was supposed to be Kohen Gadol? Korach. That's why it said Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach. If you know the song Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, we say it all the time. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. Tov leodot la'Adonai zamet shimcha elyon la'agid ba'boker chasdecha. Right? Emunatcha ba'lelot. So in that Mizmor, what do we have? Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach. If you take the Sofet Tevot, the last letters of Tzaddik, Katamar, Yifrach, Korach. Tzaddik, Kuf, Katamar, Resh, Yifrach, Chet, Korach. Meaning in the future, he's going to be a tzaddik and he's going to be a Kohen Gadol. By the way though, Rabbi Akiva rules against it, and he says that he will never come out from Gehenom. Rabbi Akiva, so there's a machloket over there if he's going to be in the end of Mashiach, and the Kohen Gadol, or if he's going to stay in Sheolah. But what he saw in his vision, in his prophecy, was right, but not for that moment. But what did he do? Because of his thinking, he says, no, if I'm worthy then, I'm worthy now. As a matter of fact, that's what that pasuk comes from. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. As a Shabbat, Shabbat is Yom Shekulo Shabbat. What's Yom Shekulo Shabbat? When Mashiach comes, it's going to be one long period that feels like Shabbat, right? So that's why he's in this pasuk, because he belongs to the time of the future. He belongs to the time of Mashiach. Korach belonged, his sanctity, his level belonged to where? To the time of Mashiach. We can see this why. We know that there's two schools of thought. We have Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. Bet Shammai are the cold thinkers. When is that going to be the proper time for Bet Shammai? In the time of Mashiach. Now Bet Hillel, we need the more lenient approach to life right now, the Chesed approach. So we see that over here he was perfect for that time, but he wanted to make it preemptive. No. If I'm perfect for that role, then I'm going to make it available now. You know why? Why wait a few centuries for this to end? Let's finish the story now. Mashiach now. Korach was the original, Mashiach now bumper sticker, right? I want it now. Let's skip the whole, going into Israel, building Bet HaMikdash Rishon, Sheni, let's go straight to Shlishi. I'm the Kohen Gadol, everything is good. He was already there. Why do we need everything in between? That's what he was thinking. There's a book called Tiferet Shimshon from Rabbi Shimshon David Pincus, Rabbi Shimshon Pincus, a very famous rabbi. Has a beautiful book on the Parashiot. I just happened to glance at it today. He brings something from Yevamot, from the 49th page on the second side. It says in Yevamot, Kol ha-nevi'im nistaklu be'aspaklaria she'ena me'ira. All the prophets, the way that they received visions, it's called aspaklaria, meaning a way of getting their prophecies, but she'ena me'ira, meaning it's not so crisp, clear, and sharp the way that they received their prophecy. Moshe Rabbeinu nistakel ba'aspaklaria me'ira. Moshe Rabbeinu had a different type of way of receiving his prophecy. As a matter of fact, it says over there, Moshe Shechina medaberet migrono. Moshe got to the level that God's holy presence is speaking from his throat. It's not even Moshe speaking, the Shekhinah is speaking from him. So God's words are, and God's intentions are clear. This is exactly what Hashem wants. This is exactly what Hashem is saying. Why? The Shekhinah is speaking from his throat. Unlike the Nevi'im,
have signs.
גוונים שונים, חסרה בהירות, ראייה, לא רואים את הדברים בטהרתם. The other Nevi'im, they get prophecies, but it's not so clear. It has to be deciphered. It's in a dream. It's in a mashal, or maybe it's something that has to be deciphered. You have to go to a different to a Kohen Gadol or something to get clarity on it. So because Moshe Rabbeinu has a very clear connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he's able to give exactly God's intentions and instructions directly, so it's exactly what Hashem wants, unlike other prophets that sometimes can lose in the interpretation of their visions or their dreams or their prophecies, because it's either you are a vessel for the prophecy, so Hashem is just using you for the vision to come out, or when the prophecy comes inside the person, whether through a vision or through a dream or whatnot, the Navi puts himself into it and says, oh, because of me saying this or doing that, that's how this prophecy will come to fruition. And that's what happened with Korach. Korach took this vision and he put himself into it. He didn't just stay a vessel for what he saw. He didn't stay a kli. He put himself into the vision, involved himself, and that's why he felt like he was a kli. So what's the problem with that? That's where the pasuk says, "Vaikach Korach, ma hu lakach? Hu lakach et atzmo." He took himself. Rabbi Shimshon Pincus says that he took himself and placed himself into the prophecy. He wasn't just a tool. He wasn't just the vessel, the kli. Rather, he involved himself in, and then shibesh. Right? What happened? It ruined it a little bit. The way that it ruined the understanding of that prophecy.
Because he wasn't objective enough.
He wasn't a kli. Ela nevuah kshura elav. He says, I am connected to this nevuah. This nevuah is something, it's a private message to me that I have to act on. What's the perfect example of this? 2 parashiot ago, in Perek Yud Bet. Perek Yud Bet, Pasuk Vav through Yud. Very simple. We see the perfect explanation of what Rabbi Shimshon Pincus just said. I'll read you the Pesukim. Remember when Miriam got the leprosy, when Miriam got the tzarat, what happened over there? Right? She spoke Lashon Hara about Moshe. Did she? Didn't she? She had good intentions, didn't get good intentions. You know, what was she thinking, right? Another one of those. What was Miriam thinking? Well, guess who comes to stand up for Moshe Rabbeinu? Who came to stand up for Moshe Rabbeinu? God himself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes down from the heavens and says, Vayomer Hashem, Pitom el Moshe. Hashem comes suddenly to Moshe and El Aharon and to Miriam. Ushloshtechem el Ohel Moed. 3 of you, come outside from Ohel Moed. Vaytzu shloshtam. The 3 of them came out. Suddenly. Right? The Midrashim talk about how nervous Aharon got. He was looking for water because his process, he needs to dip, he needs to do certain process before he gets the communication with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Regardless, the pasuk continues. It says, "Vayered Hashem ba'amud anan ve'amud petach ha'oel vayikra Aharon u'Miriam v'tzu shneim." Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes down in a cloud in front of Ohel Moed, and he calls Aharon and Miriam and he asks them to come out. And he chastises them. He tells them off. Vayomer Shim'u na devarai. Listen, heed to my words, Aharon and Miriam. Im yeh niviachem Hashem b'mar'eh. If Hashem is going to give a prophecy to a person b'mar'eh, in a vision, elav itvada b'chalom, or maybe I'll reveal myself to him in a dream. Adar bebo, I'll speak to him through a dream. Meaning, that's the way that he deals with all of the prophets. Lo chen avdi Moshe. Moshe is different. Bechol beti ne'eman hu. He is trusted in all my house, in all the heavens. Pe el pe adaber bo. He says, I speak to him mouth to mouth, meaning face to face. Velo bechidot, and not with riddles. Utmunat Hashem, or to show him a picture, and he has to figure out this picture that I'm showing him. Umadu lo yiretem daber b'avdi Moshe. How did you not fear to speak about Moshe, my servant? In other words, to show us that there's prophets and then there's Moshe. There's 2 different levels. Even though the Korach was a very high level spiritual Jew, very, very high in his role in the society, in his holiness, in his thinking, in his prophecy, in his spiritual success, in his financial success, but in reality, he wasn't even close to who Moshe is. For him to come and ask for him to replace Aaron HaKohen in his position. The vision that you had, you tainted it with your eyes and with your personal involvement. As a matter of fact, just like a small little side note, every time you see 2 subject matters juxtaposed, right? Like for example, right? So we see that right after the story of Miriam and her getting a tzarat, the next parasha speaks about who? The Miraglim. You didn't learn from Miriam? You didn't learn that Lashon Hara is bad? You didn't learn from that? We see the Miraglim spoke Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael. Right? It was juxtaposed. In our parasha also, if we just turn the page to Parashat Shlach Lecha, the last page was tzitzit, right? What was tzitzit? That Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching the Jewish people about how, where to put it, the placement, how to treat it, how to put it together. So, what did he do? Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching us tzitzit, ways to get closer to Hashem. And what do you do? Cholek ala tzitzit. Remember the story that he gave, where what if a tzitzit is all blue strings? Just like the Meraglim didn't learn from Miriam, we see that Korach also didn't learn from tzitzit. He took the lesson and he took it in a wrong way. In other words, we see that sometimes people have a different vantage point. They can see something and they don't see it in the proper way that it's supposed to be. And they don't even heed the warning, even though that it's something that happened the day before, the week before, the month before. Moshe saw clearly. Korach saw from his own vantage point. And I think for those of you that have been in this class for many years, we saw this exact same mistake with Adam and Chava, with Noah, with Nadav and Avihu, with Shaul HaMelech. We all saw how they all had their reasoning. They just wanted to do good. They had like the perfect thing of how to sanctify Hashem's name to the highest level, and it was the complete opposite of what Hashem wanted. If Hashem wanted Korach to be Kohen Gadol, he'd be Kohen Gadol. Korach says, no, Hashem, you chose wrong. Aharon is not the right Kohen Gadol. I am. Hashem makes mistakes. A few months ago, we learned about Nadav and Avihu. That Nadav and Avihu really also did the right thing. They were able to do this mega tikkun in the high heavens and below with what they wanted to do. And they would have been a perfect candidates to do it as Kohanim Gdolim also. But what did they do? Like the Gemara said, Dachku et hasha'ah. What's Dachku et hasha'ah? They did it preemptively. They did the right work with the right intention at the wrong time. Same thing with Korach. Korach wanted to be Kohen Gadol. He wanted to get to the end, to the time of Mashiach. All that is good. You will be Kohen Gadol. You will be during the time of Mashiach. But right now, it's the wrong time. There's a right time and a wrong time for things. And when you push your agenda, when you push yourself at the wrong time, we see the destruction that it causes. Another perfect example is Korach. What was Korach thinking? Korach's thinking was, Mashiach now. Let's get to the end. Forget the story. Forget Israel. Forget the fighting the 31 kings. Forget that. Let's go to the end where I'm Kohen Gadol. We're living towards Beit HaMikdash. Mashiach, now it's over. The Kadosh Baruch Hu says, wait. There's more. I have more things to do. There's more tikkunim to do. There's more Jews to involve. There's more things that the world has to go through. It's not the right time.
So it repeats itself over and over. That's the way human behavior is.
The Gemara speaks about this. I think in the previous class we spoke about different stories that the Gemara gives about Litchok et hasha'ah. How that even though he would have done big, grandiose, amazing things, Korach, and he had huge spiritual gains, and he had the right intentions, but again, it's the wrong time, the wrong approach, and it was a limited viewpoint. It's a viewpoint that was not the viewpoint that was for the time of the Jews of the desert. Korach dachak et hasha'ah. He wanted to bring the Geulah, and what did he say? We are all holy. We can all be Kohanim. We can all be in the time of Mashiach. Like I said, it's Tzaddik Atamai Yifrach. But that's not what we're supposed to be. And where's the hint to that? That was his mistake. That his mistake that he wanted to bring Mashiach was not the right time. This is a beautiful chidush. I heard this from Rabbi Zimmerman from Chicago. He says that you can get the answer to that from the number of pesukim in the parasha. How many pesukim do we have in the parasha? 95 pesukim. Tzadik Hey. Tzadik Hey pesukim spell out the word Daniel. He says, why would it says over here the siman for this week's parasha if you go to the end of every single parasha, it counts for you the pesukim, and sometimes it gives you a word or a name. So this week's parasha, it's 95 pesukim. And what's the magic word that they're giving us at the end? Daniel. Why Daniel? Because Daniel spoke about the end of days. He spoke about Mashiach. He spoke about when Mashiach would come in this way and that way and this way and that way. And in the end, what was the thing that we learned from Daniel about when is Mashiach coming? Be'ito. Be'ito at the right time. Achishena be'ito. Meaning Korach. You know why the end, the Siman is Daniel? Because you wanted to bring Mashiach, but Mashiach comes be'ito. There's a lot of different factors. It's not just because you are perfect for the role. Let's finish the whole story and go to the time of Mashiach. There's a lot more. Go read Daniel. Go learn what Daniel said about the end of times. And you're missing the lesson of Be'ito. Be'ito means there's a proper time for everything and for everyone. Everything is bismano. Sometimes a person's pushing, I gotta get married. Okay. It's not the right time. Sometimes a person pushes so much, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, you know what?
Okay, right.
Here, get married. And it's the worst wife, and the worst zivug, and the worst headache. And, what happened? You just wanted to get married. Yeah, but it wasn't the right time, wasn't the right woman. What happened? You pushed. A lot of people Parnasah Hashem, no, today I want to close the deal. Today I want to make the money. No, this year I'm going to become a millionaire. And they push, and Hashem says, okay, you push so much. You're putting all the chips in, this is what you want, everything, this is what you're pushing. Here you go, here's your $1 million. What happened? $1 million, no bracha, no shmira, no nothing. Next year, he's back to zero. Now what? Should have just waited to get the right amount of money at the right time, with bracha, with shmira, be'ito. That's what we say, פותח את ידיך. עיני כל אחד יסברו. We all open, our eyes are all raised to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Plural. עיני כל אליך יסברו. Plural. ואתה נותן להם תאכלם, בעיתו, singular. בעיתו is singular. Why? Because each one gets his money, his parnasa, at the right time, with the right bracha, at the right situation. Because keep in mind, above and beyond you getting it at the right time, you have to go through a process. We're all going through a test over here. How was your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you're broke? How's your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you're rich? How is your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you're healthy? How is your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you are sick? And vice versa on everything in the world. Everything is be'ito. It's all a test.
The older you get, you see how everybody has their time. So the more years and you see people that had all the money in the world, they were billionaires, and then all of a sudden they're selling their last, it's not all of a sudden, it could be 20 years later, but you've been around and you thought this person has like endless money and they have enough money for the rest of their lives, and then all of a sudden they're broke. After 20 years, that you know that they're the wealthiest people that you knew. And so everything goes around and it comes, and everybody has their time.
Not only be'ito, you have to understand that you always want something that has the bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A person can have $1 million and it's not enough to do anything. And there's a guy that is earning $100,000 and he has enough for everything. For some reason, this $100,000 goes a long way. What happened? There's a guy that goes to a restaurant, eats 3 meals, three dishes, all the appetizer, all this, and he walks out of the restaurant, he's hungry again. And there's a guy that eats a little bit of bread, a little bit of water, and he's full, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm satiated. What is it? There's bracha in his food. Same thing as the concept of Shemitah and the Yovel, it's all that. We want everything to come Be'ito. Korach missed that lesson. He didn't wait for Be'ito, he dachak et hasha'ah. And this is again a lesson that we've learned many times before. This is just another, let's add another chapter to Be'ito's story. That sometimes you have to make sure that even if you were a prophet and you saw things a certain way, still you could be wrong because it wasn't the right time. Because if it was the right time, Hashem would put you there. If it was the right time to get married, you'd be married. If it was the right time to have children, you'd have children. If it was the right time to be successful, you'd be successful. If it was the right time for you to be healed, it's the right time to be healed. All the time, sometimes the struggles that we're in are all for the best. In conclusion, I just want to say that we've been learning Baruch Hashem a lot. And I always pray that the lesson that we learn together, that it's able to permeate our neshama and we're actually able to get up from here, and not just mental gymnastics, not like, oh, great, there was a great lesson, there's a gematria over here, there's a midrash over there, a story over here, a little joke over there, and we go back to our normal lives. And I even pray for myself that my own lessons, permeate my neshama. There is no greater lessons to have spiritual patience. That's what Be'ito is. It's spiritual patience, when you're able to wait for the goodness that Hashem has stored for you. Of course, we all want it yesterday. We're the generation of Google and Amazon Prime, right? Amazon Today. What's it called today? Amazon Now?
Yeah, an hour I got it, yeah.
I always thought there's going to be soon an Amazon Machshava. You just have a thought and that's it. It just pops up some way, somehow on a drone on your couch. In a day and age when we want everything so quickly, it's a lesson that you have to internalize and have patience with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because Hashem is not on demand. I want married now. Okay, where's the wife? No. There's a lot behind the scenes for your journey, for your tikkun, for the tikkun that you have to do for this life, for previous gilguli, so on, etc., etc. It's one thing that really I implore all of you to spend a little bit more time and internalize this lesson of Be'ito, to accept life for what it is, and when Hashem wants it, it will happen. In our previous lesson we spoke about, so what about Hishtadlut, right? Maybe Korach just did a huge Hishtadlut. Guys, let's go, let's make it happen, right? We're going to bring Mashiach today, right? Sometimes people wake up in the morning, we're going to bring Mashiach today. Great, right? Understand? There's no problem with trying to bring Mashiach today. First you bring Mashiach for yourself. If you're ready for Mashiach, you did your job. If you're able to bring another person ready to be in Mashiach mode, that's good, right? But Korach wanted to do something, which is what? He pushed. Kadosh Baruch Hu has every single moment is a custom moment for you. If you have the patience for things to pan out, everything will pan out in the right way. As we say the bracha when somebody's successful, b'sha'a tova u'b'mazal tov. Why before we say mazal tov b'sha'a tova? Because we've been waiting for this moment for so long. Then when it finally comes, b'sha'a tova. You know why? B'sha'a tova, because it's Be'ito. It finally came at the right time. Shashem v'ayich v'chem sameach v'chem. It's a long lesson that leads to a very short life tip, which is Be'ito, which is a great lesson for this day and age. Shitu libechem nechera, pasigu metem, lemata sikur do achero.
Thank you.